We're going to be talking about some basic principles of athletic yoga that you can carry into your yoga poses and transition that into your training sessions, your race days, and even into your life. So the first principle that we're going to be talking about is intention. I'm going to have the athletes come into child's pose, and I would encourage you to join them. So go ahead and come into child's pose. And coming into child's pose allows you to come into a very calm, restorative pose. And you want to let the center of your forehead relax onto your mat and just kind of walk your fingertips forward and let your hips sit back onto your heels and come into your breathing. So focusing on your breathing. And we're going to talk a little bit more and go into more detail about the breathing in a little while. So before you even begin your yoga session, you want to know why you're doing it. You want to have a focus and an intention behind your practice so that when you get distracted, and particularly since you're practicing at home, distraction will come. So you want to just try to let distraction go and come back to the reason why you're practicing this. So yes, to get more flexible, to reduce injury, all of that physical benefit. But as well as that, there's a mental component to all of it. So you want to just kind of slow things down, refocus your mind, let go of any distraction, and then come back to your practice. So child's pose is a great place to do that. So again, just making sure that you let go of distraction and focus on the importance of your intention. So the second principle we're going to be talking about is breathing. And breathing is a very powerful tool to relax and focus your mind. So I'm going to have a few of the athletes sit up on foam blocks. And you can sit on a blanket, you can sit on a phone book, you can sit on anything that just kind of lifts and elevates your hips, especially if your hips are tight. So what that's going to do is just allow you to sit a little taller. So if you're comfortable, I'd encourage you to close your eyes. And we're going to be breathing in and out through the nose. So what that does is maintain internal heat. It allows you to really focus on your breathing and kind of let go of distraction. So what I'd like for you to do is, with your eyes closed, think of breathing in for 4 counts. Feeling the top of your inhalation where you fill up your full lung capacity, and then letting all of the air seep slowly out and feeling the bottom of the exhalation. So continue that breath cycle, and what I'd like for you to do is just try to think of reaching the whole crown of your head up and out towards the sky as you inhale. Feel the tailbone drop straight beneath you and the collarbone broad and the shoulders drop down. So again, breathing in through the nose, lengthening and extending the spine, and then feel how the body kind of slows down, releases, and softens a little bit on your exhalation. So just by consciously connecting movement with breathing, you will connect your mind to your body, and this is a great, powerful, easy tool to use prior to a training session, and particularly prior to a race day when you can kind of get those pre-race jitters. Just slow down, be calm, and don't waste any energy being anxious or geared up for unnecessary reasons. So let's just take a few more deep breaths in and out. The third principle we're going to be talking about is alignment and the importance of stacking joints and keeping a good, strong, tall posture. So again, in your easy seated pose and continuing to think about your breathing and working on that basic principle, you can just lengthen and extend your spine. And what you're going to notice is that your ears are stacked right over your shoulders and your shoulders are stacked right over your hips. So there should feel like there's a reaching from the crown of your head straight down to your tailbone. So that basic posture over time after hours of cycling becomes very difficult because of the forward flexion. So just practicing that easy seated pose is an important pose to practice. So we're going to take that easy seated pose principle and move it into a few other poses. So you guys can go ahead and come into child's pose, and again I would encourage you to join them. Practicing it makes it different than just hearing about it. So from child's pose we're going to come into downward dog and then we're going to do low lunge. So from child's pose, a good thing to practice, by the way, is just walking your hands all the way forward and keeping your arms actively extended and then coming into downward facing dog. So you guys can go ahead and come into downward facing dog. So that feels good, right? So from there, again, this is just an easy pose to practice over time. If you have 2 minutes a day to practice 2 poses, child's pose, downward facing dog, try to just make those a regular part of your life. Let's go ahead and release the knees to the floor, and what you're going to be in tabletop position. So what I want you to just notice in tabletop position is that the shoulders, again, are aligned straight over the palm. So if your hands were a little bit out in front of your shoulders, you just want to take the time when you come to a pose like this to align, and then the hips are right over the knees. So from there, why don't you guys go ahead and step your right foot up and in between your hands. I'll join you. So with this pose, your knee is stacked right over your heel. So if your foot, as you're new to this, only makes it this far forward, you want to take the time to step that foot forward. So again, you're aligning joints, okay? You can, from here, go ahead and press yourself up to a low lunge. So again, aligning the knee right out over the ankle, you can hinge your hips a little bit forward and sink your hips down towards the floor. So staying there, you want to just notice there's a little bit of mountain pose still in this pose. So there's the reaching from the crown of your head up, there's the shoulders aligned over the hips. So as you're new to this, you might want to, you notice yourself maybe leaning a little bit forward. So you can gently press your hands into your thigh to lean yourself just gently back. Okay, let's get that on the other side. So you can bring your hands down, step your knee back, and just step your left foot forward. So again, just take the time that you bring your knee right out over your ankle, and then you can go ahead and come up from that. And just again, in all of your poses, try to take this basic principle of mountain pose and feel it here in your lunge position. So you're working on your good posture muscles. So go ahead and bring your hands down on either side of your left foot, and let's finish up in mountain pose. So stepping your right foot up to your left foot. You can come up with reverse swan dive by reaching your hands out and up. And then draw your hands down by your side. So just taking your hands out by your side, what you want to feel is the foundation of your feet into the floor, and you're still noticing the same exact principle that we did in a seated position. So there's ears over shoulders, shoulders over hips, hips over heels. So there's strength in your whole body, and even though you're just standing here, you're working a pose. You should feel very grounded through your feet and that you're reaching up and out through the crown of your head. So again, that's working on alignment. Basic principle number 3. The next basic principle we're going to be talking about is the edge, and it's very much like finding the zone. It's hard to describe, but it's the balance point between overexerting, challenging yourself, pushing yourself, where you're a little bit out of your zone, and then doing too little, where you know you're not going to get any benefit at all. So you want to find that fine line between those 2 points. And it applies to strength poses like warrior poses, and it also applies to stretches. So we're going to be demonstrating some stretches. We're going to start in pigeon pose. Judah is going to demonstrate seated pigeon pose, and that is ideal for anybody who's got any knee issues. And we're all going to do prone pigeon pose, which is a great hip opener. So let's go ahead and come into downward facing dog first, just kind of as a home base. And then for your prone pigeon pose, you're going to step your right knee up to the front edge of your mat. So this is a great hip opener, and hips get very tight with high mileage. So from here, you're just going to come down to your forearms, and Judah's going to, again, demonstrate a seated version of this. Because if you've got knee sensitivity, this can put some pressure on your knee. So if you feel like you're struggling at all in a pose, and you feel like you're not at that calm, steady breathing that we practiced earlier, then you know you're going out of your comfort zone, you're going beyond your edge. And so you don't want to do that. So you want to feel very calm with your breathing. And so with this pigeon pose, you can walk yourself a little bit more forward if you want to. And if you have more flexibility, you can take your hand outside of your foot and outside of your knee and practice that. So, and then for this pose, you can, to get it a little bit deeper, you can walk more forward if you feel like you want to do a little bit more. So it's very much about being intuitive with your poses, you know, rather than being competitive with them, just kind of being at an accepting place that you know you're tight, you know you're a little unflexible, and that's okay. All right, so that's finding the edge in your pose. A second pose that you can be aware of and apply the edge principle to is hamstring stretches. So let's go ahead and lie down on our backs. You can use a stretch strap for a hamstring stretch, and if you're more flexible, you don't need to. So go ahead and bend your left knee, and extend your right leg straight up. And if you're using the stretch strap, take the stretch strap under the bottom of your right foot. So what tends to happen in hamstring stretches, and you can bring your right leg up to the sky, sorry. You can bring your hands underneath your right thigh. Katie, yeah, good. And just relax your shoulders. So first of all, you want to notice if there's tension in your face, your head, your neck, your shoulders. You definitely don't want to compromise the upper body or create tension there when you're stretching the lower body. So go ahead and lift and lengthen, and what you want to really notice is that if the leg is quivering and shaking a lot, then you've gone over the edge. You're trying to do too much, and you're going to benefit more by backing off of a little bit and doing a little less. So sometimes less is more. The last basic principle we're going to be talking about is recovery. And beyond all of the other principles, this becomes one of the most challenging ones because it's hard to sometimes do nothing at all. As athletes, we're focused on moving forward and always doing more and better. But doing nothing at all and being still and quiet is one of the most important things you can do to recharge your batteries and allow yourself to grow stronger. So the final relaxation is something that you don't want to skip. So go ahead and lie down onto your backs, and there's a lot of different variations of final relaxation that you can do, especially if you've had a long travel day or a long competition. Doing the legs up the wall pose is a really important pose to do to kind of reverse gravity. In final relaxation, it's really about the balance of opposites. So we create imbalance in our bodies by doing a lot of the same repetitive movements over and over and over again. So allowing the body to be still and quiet and enjoying doing nothing at all will empower you, will recharge you, and will allow you to come back to another training session with a little more strength, a little more focus, and a little bit more intention to be a stronger, more empowered athlete.